Hey guys, just want to walk you through the Good Samaritan assignment. Basically, what I have posted for you in a PDF version is the actual Tennessee Good Samaritan law. And the assignment's very simple. After reading this law, all I want you to do is write a one-page essay on, do I agree with this law and it should be implemented as it is, or I disagree and this is why. It's very simple. Just which do you support it or do you not support it? And so I just wanted to take a second. A lot of this is legalese that may be difficult for some of you to understand because it uses some words that we don't use on a regular basis or on a daily basis. And so I wanted to just summarize through this law, hit the highlights so that you have a better understanding. If you still have questions, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to answer those. But the law, as is written, it says, this section shall be known and cited as the Good Samaritan law. Any person, that's key, we'll come back to that, any person, including those licensed to practice medicine and surgery, and including any person licensed or certified to render service ancillary thereto, or any member of a volunteer first aid, rescue, or emergency squad that provides emergency public first aid and rescue services. So let's talk about that. It's very important to note that at the very beginning of that paragraph, and I'm looking at B right now, it says any person, blanket statement. Okay, we're talking about any person. And then it goes out of its way, in case anyone had any question, we're also talking about those that are licensed to practice medicine. We're talking about doctors, okay? We're talking about any licensed people to render service, so we're talking about nurses. We're talking about any type of medical staff. And even if you weren't sure, it says, or any member of a volunteer first aid, rescue, or emergency squad. So even those people that are doing this on a voluntary basis, okay, they are all covered under this law if they provide public first aid and rescue services. Okay, so again, go back to the beginning of that paragraph. Any person. We're talking about anybody. Okay, it goes on. Who in good faith, 1, renders emergency care at the scene of an accident, medical emergency, and or disaster. Okay, so you're on the scene of an emergency, you provide first aid. You're covered. Or while en route from such scene to a medical facility and while assisting medical personnel at the receiving medical facility. So this is extended to, you're at the scene, now we're taking the victim to the hospital. So you're on the way from the scene to the hospital, you're covered. You're at the hospital and for some reason you're still asked to help with the medical staff to assist, you're still covered. Okay? This says also including the use of an automatic external defibrillator or an AED. So if you pull out at school, somebody's fallen down, cardiac arrest, not breathing, you pull out the AED, you're covered. Okay? To the victim or the victims thereof without making any direct charge for the emergency care. Okay? Free or not, you're covered. Number 2, participates or assists in rendering emergency care, including the use of an AED defibrillator, to persons, and this is important here, to persons attending or participating in performances, exhibitions, banquets, sporting events, religious and or other gatherings open to the general public, with or without an admission charge, whether or not such emergency care is made available as a service planned in advance by the promoter of the event and or any other persons or association. Okay, what are we talking about? All of those things cover anywhere where there is a gathering of people, whether they purchased a ticket to get in, whether it was free to get in, whether you're at a concert or whether you're at Walmart, okay? Whether somebody said, hey, we will have first aid provided at this event. So, for example, if you go to a professional sporting event, at some point during the game, if you're paying attention, they will make an announcement and say, if anyone needs first aid, it is available in section 304, whatever. Whether they do that or not, you're covered, okay? It also says, you shall not be liable to such victims or persons receiving emergency care for any civil damages as a result of any act or omission by such a person in rendering the emergency care or as a result of any act or failure to act to provide or arrange for further medical treatment or care for the injured person. Okay, what are we talking about here? First off, liable just means responsible. Okay, so you shall not be responsible to such victims or persons receiving emergency care for any civil damages. What's a civil damage? It's a lawsuit. So you're not responsible. Nobody can sue you, okay, if you provide first aid or if you don't provide it first aid. It says, for as a result of any act, which would be providing the first aid, or omission, not providing the first aid, by such person rendering the emergency care, or as a result of any act or failure to act. If a guy starts choking and you stand there and watch him, okay, which I would highly recommend that you do not do, help the guy out. But if you stand there and watch him, if he says call 911 and you don't call 911, you're not responsible, okay? But if you do help out, and if you do call 911 and something happens, you're still not responsible, okay? Except, here's the exception, except such damages as result from the gross negligence of the person rendering such emergency care. So the only way that you're found liable in a situation if you are grossly negligent, okay? And so what does that mean? That means that you were blatantly irresponsible and you acted in a way in which the normal human individual would know better, okay? You're not a medical professional. This has nothing to do with, well, a doctor would know to do this, so you should have too. No. It's a normal human would not have done what you did because it was a irresponsible act. Okay? So for example, this is an extreme example, but let's say that you're at a restaurant. Somebody's choking, okay? And the first thing you do is take out your pocket knife and you cut a hole in the guy's throat and do a tracheotomy so he can breathe. That is not the first line of defense. Okay? It is not recommended for any amateur, that's not a professional doctor, to do such a thing. The average person would know better than to do that. So that person would be grossly negligent. A better example of understanding negligence would be, think about the gym and as a PE teacher. Okay? Imagine if there were 2 tables and 4 chairs sitting in the middle of the gym floor. Okay? And I said, hey guys, today we're going to play basketball 5-on-5, split up, pick teams. I got 2 teams of 5. I put them on the court and say go. And a kid is running down the floor, is looking at his teammate. He's going to catch a pass. He runs right into the table and breaks a rib. I'm negligent. Because any reasonable person should have known you can't play basketball with a chair, 4 chairs, and 2 tables in the middle of the basketball court. That's a liability. That's a risk. And you should have known that, okay? That's negligence. So the only way that you fall susceptible to a lawsuit in a first aid situation, if you are helping or not helping, is if you're grossly negligent, okay? C, it says a receiving medical facility shall not be liable for any civil damages for a lawsuit as a result of any act or omission on the part of any member of a volunteer first aid, rescue, or emergency squad that provides emergency public first aid and rescue services while such person is assisting medical personnel at the receiving facility. Okay, so all that means is first aid rescue guy brings you to the hospital. He's helping transport you inside. He's still helping the medical facility. You can't turn around, that person or the person's family can't turn around and sue the hospital for something that the volunteer first aid guy did. Okay, so they're covered by this law. So the main idea of this law is you are covered to help in a first aid situation in all situations unless you are grossly negligent, unless you do something that the average person would know better than to do. Okay? The intention of the law is so that you, when you're in the general public, you see an emergency situation, you are not hesitant to help out. Okay? And so, reread through this law again. You can watch this video again if you need another explanation, if you need to hear it again. But the assignment is simply this. 1 page, okay? This is what the law is. Do you support the law or do you not support the law? If you don't support it, what changes would you make? Why don't you support it? Someone could perhaps argue against it because I don't want somebody that I don't know sticking their hands all over me in an emergency situation. Some people feel that way. Okay, how do you feel about the law? Write a 1-page essay about it and then submit it. If you've got any questions, reach out, shoot me an email. I'm here to help.